Afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Jennie Montgomery. Welcome to another half hour of information to help you make the most of your time, to make informed decisions, and to keep up with goings on around Greater Augusta. Today, we are taking an in-depth look at mental illness that too often ends in suicide, bipolar disorder. A highly esteemed psychiatrist from the Medical College of Georgia at Augusta University is here to shed light on what seems like an endless cycle of downward spirals to feeling on top of the world. But first, someone who has battled bipolar for years, who most importantly is still here, after deciding repeatedly that her only peace would be death. TED Talks are called your speech of a lifetime, and many people want to be a TED speaker because it's the opportunity to share information. Jame Geathers knows the pull of wanting to lay it all out there on stage. The local author is a recent TEDx Augusta speaker who shared her experience with bipolar disease, and she's not shy about it.
In 2013, I was exhausted with fighting the battle in my own brain, and I decided to accept my diagnosis. The first step was to come clean with my primary care physician. I thought I would be given medication and everything would just be wonderful. I was wrong. No one tells you how difficult it is to find the right combination of medications, knowledgeable, empathetic providers, or how the side effects of the drugs are often worse than the disease itself. I guess that's because if they did, no one would ever bother with treatment. This was compounded by the daily struggle to hide my symptoms from those around me.
And Jame Geathers is here now with me today to talk about her book, Taking the Mask Off of Bipolar. And I'll tell you a little bit more about her book in just a minute. Jame, I know this is really, it's hard for you to do, but it's also something that you feel compelled to do because you are a survivor.
Yes, yes.
One of the things that grabbed my attention immediately in your book was when you called yourself a walking contradiction. What do you mean by that?
Well, on one day, I would be highly organized, methodical in how I planned out my day, reliable, dependable, and then an hour or the next day, I would be all over the place, coming up with multiple ideas, not dependable at all, barely able to pin down a thought, much less get a task done, just complete opposites.
The complete opposite. I can imagine the frustration of that because I think that probably it sounded like it could have been, I mean, at some point, somebody might have thought you were ADHD, you know? And this is something that you have had since childhood. In fact, the first time you ever considered suicide, you were only 11 years old.
Yes, that's true. And it's been a struggle for years. The hardest part was not knowing why I felt that way. And even after getting my diagnosis, having a diagnosis was a struggle because no one wants that label, no one wants to be considered crazy. And that was my fear.
And that's, you know, a mental illness. Doctors want to tell us that, you know, if you have a broken arm, you're going to get it fixed. If you have something, something wrong with a kidney or whatever, you're going to get treatment. But there is the stigma associated with a mental illness, and it's because it's something that we can't see.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people with mental illness diagnosis, they struggle because they're embarrassed. They don't want people to think that they're weak or think that they can't be relied upon, think that they aren't able to do their jobs. Because a lot of people do believe those things about people with diagnosis.
Well, I don't know how you managed to raise a child as a single mom when you were battling these demons. These were in the years before you were diagnosed.
It was very challenging, and unfortunately my daughter ended up being my support system a good amount of the time, but we made it through. And she's actually studying psychiatry now, so it worked out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It took you until you were 33 years old before you were officially diagnosed. But a decade earlier, another doctor had mentioned it to you, and your first response was, I'm not going back. And that's what you call just the classic denial.
Oh yeah, I was deep in denial. I refused to accept the diagnosis. I refused to even acknowledge it. There was no way I was going to walk away with that, because the first thought I had was, that means something is wrong with me. I'm going to take medication for the rest of my life. People will not want to be around me. I was terrified.
You know, one thing you said about medication, and we heard it in the clip earlier, you mentioned in your book that there were times when doctors would give you something for depression, but for what you had, that exacerbated it.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of...
Getting the medication right is such a challenge.
It is. It's the worst part of once you get your diagnosis is getting the medications down pat, because your symptoms change and evolve over time. So what works wonderfully today, in a month from now, it may not work at all. Yeah.
You said, Jame, that the one thing that kept you from completing suicide was your fur babies.
Yes. And I know a lot of people will say, wow, she has a daughter. Why wouldn't that stop you?
Yeah.
But I had been such a burden on my daughter that I felt like she'd be better off without me. So that's why she wasn't my reason for staying alive. I felt like she would be stronger and be better off without me being around. But I knew that none of my family members or anyone I knew would take in my cats or my dog. And so, you know, whatever it takes, you have to hold on to it, and that's what I held on to.
The thing about it is you're still here.
Right.
You're still here. And you have experienced homelessness, you've experienced abuse in your marriage, you've experienced being a single mom for years and losing your jobs, but you keep on going, Jame. There's a lot of strength in you.
Absolutely. I am resilient, and my faith makes me resilient, and knowing that hopefully my story is going to empower someone else to keep going, that's why I keep telling it, and I'll scream it from the rooftops if I have to.
We want to show you right now, we have the book, Taking Off the Mask of Bipolar. You can find it on Amazon. We've got that information for you on our website, WJBF.com. All you have to do is click the Jennie link. We also have a link to her TED Talk and the TEDx Talk here in Augusta. And you will just be so inspired when you watch that. Jame, you're just an amazing person, and I know that it's going to be a battle for you. But you know that there's hope, and you have gotten treatment now that is working, and I just hope that it's going to last you through the rest of your journey.
Thank you.
Still ahead on Jennie, the denial, the downward spirals, and spending sprees.